everyone. I want to thank you for joining today's webinar on how to report on the home worker productivity as well as their overall end user experience. By ways of introduction, my name is Stacey Leidwinger and I am with Goliath Marketing Department, and I'm going to be setting up just brief context before I turn it over to Yemi Ladyju, who's a senior technical consultant and really going to talk about some of the reports and analytics that you need to better support your remote staff. Now, before getting started, I just want to do a few housekeeping items. As I said, we're going to have a few initial slides just to set up what's going on in today's environment and what are some of the newfound challenges that many of you are facing because of the surge of remote workers due to COVID-19. Then we'll go into more of a demonstration and actually walk through some of the different reports and analytics that Goliath offers that really can give you insights and visibility to not only troubleshoot issues, but anticipate them from happening altogether. Throughout, please submit your questions in the Q&A box. We will try to answer some of them as they come in, and if not, we'll save them for the end. And one of the questions we often get is, will this be recorded? Yes, and that recording will be in your inbox in the next 24 hours. The other last item is, when you close out the webinar today, and we do hope you stay the entire time, you will be asked a series of 4 to 5 questions as a short survey. Please take the time to fill that out. We use that information to make sure as we continually produce our webinar series, we're providing content that provides you, the community, the best information, the most useful information that we can. So as we get started, I just want to have one slide on a little bit of background setting around who Goliath is. We have been working with organizations of all sizes for many years, anticipating, troubleshooting, and documenting their overall user experience. And Yemi, can you jump to that slide, please? And we've been doing this, especially in our organizations. Oh, I think we're jumped just one too far ahead there. There we go. We're really working with organizations that have a very large and distributed or remote workforce. So even prior to COVID-19, we've been helping many of these organizations really prepare for the new work style that was emerging. So if you take organizations like Penn National Insurance, some of the hospitals, they've been working with remote users for many years now. These hospitals have multiple locations, and they needed to have that single pane of glass that would give them visibility across their entire virtualized infrastructure, as well as end user behavior. And when customers use us, they often tell us that by using Goliath, it's as if they've hired a full-time troubleshooting expert that is available 24/7 by 365 days a week. And from these logos, what you can tell is that we can both scale technically as well as economically to meet SMB needs, as well as some of the largest global enterprises on the globe today. We do have a focus in healthcare. And the reason we do is because of that distributed nature of many of these health systems that have multiple hospitals, facilities, and clinics around the country, but also because we have purpose-built modules for all the major electronic health records, EHR systems, like Epic, Cerner, and Allscripts, as well as Meditech. And we provide that end visibility not only across their virtualized desktop and application environments, such as Citrix or VMware Horizon, but also across that access point into those EHR applications and end user behavior. And so it is an area that I see you on the phone today in healthcare that we really take a lot of care, not only technology-wise, but partnerships at the business level with these EHR providers to make sure we can provide you that end-to-end visibility. Now, as we jump in, as we go to the next slide, I just want to level set around what I believe many of you are probably facing right now. Right as news broke around COVID-19 and the thought of people starting to work more remotely from home, our amount of calls that were coming in greatly increased. We had a lot of people asking us, if our employees start to work from home, do you have reports that can track if they're working, how they're working? How's their work style and behavior going to change now that they're remote? That amount of calls have only increased as entire workforces have now come back or now moved to the home office. And it's interesting because I just spoke to a customer yesterday who was one of the original inquirers around this, and they're now leveraging a new report we're going to show you. And what they said is what they're seeing is there is no normal day for their staff, especially because many of their employees are homeschooling their children right now. So they have a number of adults and parents who are logging in maybe around noon or 1 and working into the wee hours of the night. And they need to understand that changing work style and changing habits so they can support them from both an IT and business needs. So in many cases, it's not just tracking activity or productivity to make sure people are working, but it's understanding how they're working. It's getting insights to, are they having performance issues? Are they able to access all the applications they need to be effective at their job? How many licenses are we using? Are people actually using Citrix and logging into Citrix on a daily basis? And so these are the questions that many of you are probably facing right now and have various answers and various levels of ease to deliver those answers. Now, one of the things that's probably extremely frustrating, and we hear this from customers, Yemi, if you go to the next slide, is the answer to these questions are not easy. And many times, whether it be even another IT manager or a business line manager asking you for those answers, they don't understand why it's not easy. Well, many of you on the phone, you're living and breathing the deployment around your Citrix or VMware Horizon environment. And you know that those virtualized environments is a tangled web of technologies. In fact, most often, you're going to have 15 or more vendors that come together to deliver that end user experience. And in order to deliver a successful end user experience, they all have to work in concert together. And now, when your employees are more remote, the amount of variability into how this entire infrastructure works is even greater. So you've got users coming in from various locations. They all have different endpoints. They all have different levels of machines. Some of your employees, you didn't have an actual machine for them to bring home, so they're using their own devices. And that could be a 5 or 6-year-old laptop that they're trying to run technology on. You have not always insights into what is their home Wi-Fi like? What's their hotspots like? What is the public Wi-Fi like? I talked to another customer, I think it was this week, and what they told us is home internet providers lie. They were so frustrated by employees calling in talking about poor performance and them saying it has to be your internet. There is nothing we're seeing on our end. And that employee calls their home internet provider and they go, nope, everything's fine here. And so it's this tangled web of finger pointing that's going on. The other challenge beyond the environment and just natural dependencies around end user behavior that make these elements different is the overall infrastructure. As many of you know, it's not just deploying Citrix, it's deploying NetScaler gateways, storefronts, the broker services, all the applications that you have running in. If you are at a medical or your EHR system, behind that you have different back-end systems, all from different vendors, your licensing server, SQL database, profile servers, Active Directory. And beyond that, then you've got your hypervisor layer, which could be another set of vendors and could be even a hybrid set. You might be having some of your hosts from Citrix, some from Microsoft, some from VMware. And so the challenge is when there's a problem or when someone wants to report on actual performance metrics, it's not just going to one system. It's understanding how all of these things come together. And so it's being able to have insights across all of this, including end user behavior, so that when someone complains about slow logon, you can quickly identify, is it within the backend systems? Is it because of their home Wi-Fi network? Is it because of something at the hypervisor layer? And these are the type of insights that you need to be able to successful and support the surge of remote workers. To make this challenge even more complex, I have this next slide, and while there's a lot of information, I'm not going to talk through all of it, it's just highlighting this to another degree, because it's not just about the different vendors, it's about all of these elements coming together. So you think about the endpoint, it is your potential laptop, it is any external USB devices that you're plugging into it. You've got the variability, not only of the home Wi-Fi, but how people are working on that Wi-Fi. Often in the office, in IT, you're blocking things like YouTube or Netflix because you know that that consumes a ton of bandwidth. Now that people are home, they can stream that. And in fact, they have a whole household at home. They're all streaming from these applications that are consuming bandwidth. Within the infrastructure, you just take Active Directory. That itself is not one system. It's user authentication, group policy, registry. Any one of those could cause an error that's impacting performance. So when you need insights to report, you need to be able to understand all of these IT elements, not only to report on them, but to proactively alert if there is an issue. And so at the end of the day, what you really need is a tool that has embedded intelligence and automation that can provide you that holistic view to better monitor and troubleshoot your remote worker environment. And the 3 criteria that we see often with our customers when it comes to evaluating these tools is, first, having historical reports and analytics that provide objective evidence. And it's objective evidence, so you can not only report on what is the end user performance, are my employees working, but can also provide data that can foster collaboration across other IT teams, whether it's the network team, the storage team, other vendors, management, end users. Data really eliminates the need for a lot of the finger pointing of whose problem it is and isolates exactly where the problem is. In doing that, you also need real-time and metrics around the experience. So again, when you're looking at those over 250 elements, by leveraging embedded intelligence and automation, you can isolate when there is a problem exactly where it's coming from. You also have visibility. So when an end user calls you and says, my system's slow, you can actually identify, is it slow right now? Was it slow 3 hours ago? Was it slow last week? Because as humans, we're always going to have some level of a subjective view. Now you can have data into that real-time experience as well as historical, again, so you can troubleshoot and drive those conversations. And then the last piece, when it comes to really being able to document and understand, it's also being able to be proactive and anticipate issues. How can you identify performance issues before they even occur so that you can attack them and handle them before end users are impacted? And this is something that everyone strives for, but it's becoming even more important when you have central hubs and office locations. They really typically have a pulse on how's everything going. Are people satisfied? You'll hear if there's performance issues coming up. But now that you have everyone working remotely, they don't know, are these performance issues because of the system? Is this the performance they should expect now from their home office? And I hear this time and time again from many of the likes of you on the phone in terms of, we have to support workers that are not used to working from home. They don't have necessarily the right setup or the best bandwidth when it comes to internet providing. And they don't know how to work remotely. And so not only are we trying to troubleshoot issues, we're also trying to level set expectations when it comes to performance. So really, as we go through this and we show the different types of documentation available to identify both productivity and the end user experience, it's really important when you think about collecting a tool that can help you, that it fits these 3 criteria. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one, which is really about offering historical reports around end user productivity and key performance metrics. And so one of the things about this is you need to be able to have reports that show critical information, not only for that day or week, but longer periods over time, 30, 60, 90 days, so that you can report on trends and really understand what's going on with that experience. The other piece of this is that you need a tool that is going to foster those conversations. And so you need to make sure that the information is factual as well as broad. So it's giving you details about every aspect of that entire VDI infrastructure, all the way from how the end user works with the technology through the different elements of the technology itself. You also need to be able to have the ability to manipulate the data. And to manipulate it, you need to be able to email it, whether it be to your managers or maybe business line managers. You need to be able to export it. You need to be able to do it visually. And you need to be able to look at it directly in the tool so you can make real-time decisions. These are all critical aspects when you think about reporting. So with that, Yemi, why don't you walk us through some critical reports that we see many organizations using today to really highlight that home worker productivity and overall experience?
Yeah, absolutely, Stacy. And to piggyback off of what how you set this up, a lot of our customers come to our technology to be able to understand a number of things, particularly how it fits in with the remote worker situation or environment that we're in today. And some of these reports can really be broken down into 3 sections. You have the end user activity or sort of usage reports that break down productivity, peak usage, application usage, as well as license usage from a Citrix perspective, so that IT can not only understand what the customers or what the end users are doing inside of their sessions, they can also understand how this impacts licensing, how this impacts the environment as a whole, so that they can support this moving forward. Then the next section is end user experience. Okay, when these users are actually being productive in the environment, what is their experience like? Are they having logon issues? Are they having issues with latency inside of their sessions? These sort of things, it's important for, at least our customers tell us that it's important to understand these sort of metrics so that they can adjust and they can find out exactly what the root cause is and be able to support that moving forward. And then finally, there's the infrastructure level. There is making sure that the environment is up and running, making sure that there are no issues from a host, from a CPU perspective, from a memory perspective as well. So sort of the combination of all of these reports really gives IT that full ability to document issues or document the environment as a whole, so that they can sort of drive permanent fix actions and make sure that they're able to support their users effectively. So let's quickly go through some of these reports in these sections, particularly starting off with the end user productivity report. And as Stacy mentioned, this is one that we've just brought into the marketplace due to a lot of requests and a lot of conversations we've had with customers on being able to document individual users' usage of the environment, not just when they log in, but as you can see here on this report, breaks down the users, the duration of their sessions, their start time and end time, of course, but you can see the interaction time, and this is the amount of time that they are inside of their session actually creating ICA traffic. Conversely, you can see how long that they are not doing that inside of their session. You now have a percentage. So you can run a report and see, okay, how long or what is the percentage of time that users have their, users are working inside of their sessions, just to be able to understand, okay, are users working and how can we support the users and their sessions in this environment that we're in today. You can also see here the max inactivity, which is the maximum amount of time that the user inside of their session has had sort of an inactive spell. So that really gives you an additional visibility into, okay, did they leave for 5 minutes, or did they leave, or did they not work for about an hour or something like that? I wanted to point out that this isn't using some of these, Microsoft has an active session or idle session metric. I wanted to point out that this is collected in a different manner. This is actual time within the session that they are creating ICA traffic. So some of those other metrics can be inaccurate and they weren't created for this purpose to track user activity. They were more created to maybe kill a session if it's idle or something like that. These metrics here are purpose built to be able to identify user activity inside of the session. The next report that I wanted to bring up is now taking a look at the user experience. So we have an end user experience report here that breaks down the users here on the left-hand side of the screen, and then you can see the different components that go into experience. You can see their logon duration, their ICA latency, and their client connection speed. So these are the sort of things that, as a whole, you can break down the user experience, but keep in mind that we have other reports that break down maybe ICA latency, or take a deeper dive into logon duration and the different portions of logon duration. And we'll show you some of those coming up in the presentation. The next one is now focused on the availability of the systems. And this is a duly named availability report that shows you, okay, how available are your environment, are the servers in your environment, what's the average response time, and the overall sort of availability and how many times this availability has been tested. This is one I know has been heavily used, especially when you have environments that are disparate or maybe hybrid environments where you have on-premises and also cloud. Really having a central environment to test and make sure all these systems are available, along with testing out the infrastructure, the user experience, as well as user productivity. Here's another one that's breaking down memory status. And then here, so within our technology, we have out-of-the-box alerts and reports, and those are sort of the things that we've seen thus far. But we also have built custom views into our database that can be used or leveraged in tools like Power BI and Tableau on your own without any consulting services or anything like that, that really give you more of a visual depiction of some of the reports that we've had. So here's one that we actually pulled from one of our customers who's a large MSP. They have multiple different locations, and here they wanted to break down log on times, specifically log on times based on time period. So what days are log ons really high, and at what sections of the log on process are actually impacting that, or what days of the week, or maybe what times during the day do we have log on duration issues. The next one breaks down the log on time per server name. And we blocked out the server name here at the bottom of the screen, but it breaks down per server, what's the log on duration. And again, breaking down the different stages. So that if there is, maybe we're not having a large or widespread log on issue. Maybe there's just a couple of servers that may be on legacy hosts, or might have more users than normal on top of this server, and that's actually why they're having slowness with log on. So they're able to break it down that way. And then here you can see they're breaking it down based on the different farms and the different locations that they have users connecting in from. So not only are they able to sort of slice and dice or leverage the information from our out-of-the-box reports that can be run on demand and also can be exported directly from our technology, they're able to leverage some of these custom views that we have to really make some of these reports more exportable as far as for management and giving you a more of a visual depiction.